So what if I told you that everything you see, everything you feel, even your very sense of who you are, is a kind of hallucination? Not a crazy, out-of-control one, but a very, very carefully controlled one, generated inside your own brain. Today, we're going to dive into neuroscientist Anil Seth's incredible book, Being You, to explore a new science of consciousness that might just challenge everything you think you know about reality.
Okay, let's start with a classic piece of art that just perfectly nails this idea. This is René Magritte's super famous painting. We all see a pipe, right? But the text right below it says, "This is not a pipe." And you know what? It's right. It's not a pipe. It's a painting of a pipe. Now, this isn't just some clever artistic trick. It's getting at something really deep about perception. It makes you stop and ask, is what I'm seeing really what's there? Or are my senses just giving me a very, very convincing story? The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein hit on this exact point. For thousands of years, it looked like the sun went around the Earth. It just seemed obvious. But he asked, what would it have looked like if the Earth was the one turning? And the answer is, well, it would have looked exactly the same. How things seem to us is not always the best guide to how they actually are. And that idea right there, that's our starting point for taking apart our own experience.
All right, so let's begin that process. The huge, kind of mind-bending idea from Anil Seth is that your perception of the world isn't like a clear window you just look through. Nope. It's an active, totally creative process. It's your brain's best guess about what's actually out there.
I mean, really think about this for a second. Put yourself in your brain's shoes. It's never seen sunlight. It's never heard a bird sing directly. It's just locked away in the silent, dark vault of your skull. All it ever gets are these messy, ambiguous electrical signals coming in from your senses. And from just that noisy data, it has to build your entire reality from scratch.
So this brings us to Seth's central concept, perception as a controlled hallucination. Let's break that down. It's a hallucination because it's a reality generated by the brain, not just passively received from the outside. But, and this is the key part, it's controlled. It's constantly being checked and corrected by sensory signals from the world. So we don't just make stuff up randomly. We're constantly making predictions and then updating them based on what comes in.
So, how does this actually work? Well, you can think of the brain as a prediction machine. First, it predicts. It makes a best guess about what's causing its sensory signals. Then it senses. It compares that guess to the actual raw data coming in. And here's the brilliant part. The brain mostly pays attention to the prediction error, the mismatch between what it expected and what it actually got. It doesn't need to process everything, just the surprises. Then it uses those errors to update its guess. And what you and I experience as reality is just the brain's current updated best guess.
You've totally had this happen, right? You see a face in the clouds or in the front of a car or even in a bathroom sink like this one. That phenomenon is called pareidolia, and it's a perfect example of your predictive brain in action. Your brain has such a strong preloaded expectation for seeing faces because they're so important for survival that it just projects that pattern onto whatever it's looking at. You're not just seeing random shapes, your brain is actively hallucinating a face.
Okay, so if our perception of the outside world is a controlled hallucination, you can probably see where this is going, right? What about our perception of our inner world? What about that feeling of being you? Could that also just be a construct?
Let's try a thought experiment. It's called the teletransportation paradox. Imagine a machine that scans your body, atom for atom, destroys it, and then instantly creates a perfect replica of you on Mars. Is that person on Mars still you? Did your consciousness travel? Thinking about this stuff gets weird fast, and it reveals our built-in assumption that we have this single continuous self that can be moved around like a piece of luggage. But maybe that's not right.
The reason that paradox is so tricky is because the self isn't really one single thing. It's more like a bundle of different perceptions, all being actively generated by the brain. There's the feeling of having a body, the sense that you're seeing from a first-person point of view, the experience of making choices, the story of your life built from memories, and your understanding of how you fit in with other people. Each one of these is its own controlled hallucination.
And we know that this self is a pretty fragile construct, because in certain neurological conditions, that bundle can actually come apart. In an out-of-body experience, for instance, your sense of viewpoint separates from your sense of your body. With alien hand syndrome, your sense of control over your own actions breaks down. These aren't just strange curiosities. They're powerful evidence that the unified I we all feel every day is a very carefully constructed perception. Okay, so this leads to a pretty big question.
If the world is a hallucination and the self is a hallucination, then what's the point? Are we just sort of living in a movie produced by our own brains? It's a really dizzying thought. But this is where the theory gets incredibly powerful. Because there is a point, and it's the most fundamental point of all.
This brings us to Seth's brilliant reconstruction. After taking everything apart, he puts it all back together with a concept that sounds a little startling at first, but is also deeply intuitive, the idea that at our core, we are beast machines.
Seriously, forget about seeing in color or writing music for a second. From an evolutionary perspective, the brain's #1 top priority job is simply regulation. It's there to manage the body, to keep your temperature, your blood pressure, and all your other vital signs within the very narrow limits that allow you to stay alive. The brain is a survival machine first and a thinking machine a distant second.
So how does the brain actually regulate the body? It does it through a lesser-known sense called interosection. This is the constant flood of information flowing from your organs and tissues back to your brain, reporting on your internal state. It's the perception of your own biology, the feeling of your heart beating fast, your stomach churning, or the ache in your muscles after a workout.
And this is the big reveal. All those complex emotions we feel, fear, joy, anxiety, what are they, really? According to this theory, they are controlled hallucinations of your internal state. They are the brain's best guess about what's going on inside your body, all in the service of keeping you alive. So fear isn't just some abstract idea, it's the brain's perception of a bodily state that gets you ready to run from danger. Joy is the perception of a body state that signals safety and well-being. Everything we experience, all of consciousness, is ultimately tied to this biological need to stay alive.
So let's pull all of this together. What does this all mean for who we are? Well, it completely shifts our understanding of consciousness. It's not some mysterious, ghost-like thing that's separate from our bodies. Instead, it's something deeply, fundamentally integrated with our nature as living creatures.
And you know, this scientific view doesn't make us any less special. I think it does the exact opposite. It shows that our most profound experiences, our very sense of self, are built on the same biological principles that guide every single living thing on this planet. We aren't ghosts in a machine. We are an incredible union of mind and biology. It connects us, deeply and fundamentally, to the entire web of life.
Which brings me to this final thought from the poet Emily Dickinson. Our brains, these 3-pound organs inside our skulls, generate entire universes. The reality we each experience is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. And the real mystery, then, isn't that we are somehow separate from nature, but that we are nature itself, waking up and becoming aware of itself. So the final question isn't just, what does it mean to be you, but what does it mean to be a conscious part of this cosmos?